Night Story. The Vanishing House.
I had lived in Harrow's End for most of my life. It was a small, quiet town with a single main street and a few shops nestled between the mountains and a thick forest. Everyone knew each other, and we all kept to our routines. But there was one place we avoided, the Vanishing House, as it came to be known. It sat at the edge of town, at the end of a cul-de-sac where the forest began. The house had once been grand, with 3 stories and a wraparound porch, but time had not been kind to it. The paint was peeling, the windows were shattered, and the roof sagged like an old man's shoulders. No one had lived there for decades, and it was said that if you looked at it from just the right angle, it seemed to disappear into the trees. I was the town's night watchman, which meant I had the late shift, patrolling the streets and making sure everything was in order. It was usually a quiet job, but one night I saw something that changed everything. I was passing by the Vanishing House when I noticed a light flickering in one of the upper windows. It was faint, like a candle, but it was unmistakable. I radioed the police, and they sent a couple of officers to check it out. By the time they arrived, the light was gone. The officers searched the house but found nothing, no sign of anyone, no signs of a break-in. They chalked it up to an overactive imagination, but I knew what I had seen. The next night, I was back at the same spot, watching the house. The fog had rolled in, casting an eerie glow over the town. That's when I saw it again, the light, flickering in the same window. This time, I didn't call the police. I had to see for myself. I approached the house, my flashlight cutting through the fog. The front door was ajar, creaking on its hinges. Inside, the air was musty and filled with the scent of decay. I climbed the creaking staircase, each step groaning under my weight. As I reached the top, I saw the source of the light. It was an old oil lamp, sitting on a dusty table in the hallway. But something was wrong. The lamp was burning, but there was no one around. The hallway was empty, the doors to the rooms closed. I felt a chill run down my spine. It was as if someone had been there, but had vanished before I arrived. I opened the door to one of the rooms and found it empty, save for a few pieces of broken furniture and a pile of old newspapers. The headlines were from decades ago, talking about a series of disappearances that had rocked the town. I felt a sense of unease, knowing that these stories had never been solved. As I turned to leave, I heard a whisper faint, almost like a breeze. It seemed to come from the other end of the hallway, where there was a small door leading to the attic. I'd never been up there, but I knew I had to check it out. The attic stairs were narrow and steep, and the air grew colder as I ascended. At the top, I found a large, open space filled with old boxes and cobwebs. The whispering grew louder, and I followed the sound to the far corner of the attic, where I found something that made my blood run cold. It was a collection of old photographs, pinned to the wall with rusty nails. They showed people from different eras, their faces faded, but still recognizable. Some of them I knew residents of Harrow's End, who had vanished without a trace. And in the center of the wall was a single photograph that stood out from the rest. It was of a man, dressed in old-fashioned clothing, with a stern expression. He had dark eyes that seemed to follow me wherever I went. As I studied the photograph, the whispering grew louder, and the attic seemed to close in around me. The whispers became voices, overlapping and chaotic, as if a dozen people were trying to speak at once. I turned to leave, but the attic door slammed shut, plunging me into darkness. I managed to break a window and climb out onto the roof, but the house seemed to shift beneath me, the shingles sliding under my feet. I jumped to the ground, barely landing on my feet, and ran back to town as fast as I could. The next morning, I returned with the police, but the house was gone. It was as if it had never been there. The cul-de-sac was empty, with only a few trees and some overgrown grass. No one believed me when I told them what had happened, but I knew the truth. The Vanishing House had claimed another victim me. I couldn't sleep after that, hearing the whispers in my dreams, seeing the stern-faced man in my nightmares. I knew the house would return, and when it did, I would be waiting. But this time, I wouldn't go in alone.